My name's John, and I thought ghosts were just stories, tall tales to scare kids in St. Louis. But last fall, my friends Jake, Emily, and I went looking for thrills at Missouri's most haunted places: Lemp Mansion, Missouri State Penitentiary, and Zombie Road. We thought it'd be fun, maybe a few cheap scares. Instead, we woke something up, something that followed us home. Tapping in the walls, shadows in the dark, voices whispering our names, and they haven't stopped. This is our story, what we saw, what we heard, and what's still haunting us. Stick around to find out if we escaped or if it's still with us. If you're into real ghost stories, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what happens next. Like this video if you've ever felt a chill you couldn't explain. Comment below with your own spooky stories, and share this with your friends who love a good scare. Trust me, you'll want to see how this ends. My name's Sarah, and I've always been a skeptic when it comes to ghosts. Growing up in St. Louis, I'd heard all the stories, tales of restless spirits at Lemp Mansion, eerie whispers in the Missouri State Penitentiary, and shadowy figures along Zombie Road. They were just campfire stories, I thought, meant to scare kids like me. But last fall, my friends and I decided to test that theory. We planned a weekend road trip to visit Missouri's most haunted spots, chasing thrills and maybe a good laugh. What we found, though, still keeps me up at night. It started at Lemp Mansion in St. Louis. The place is infamous, called one of the most haunted spots in America by folks who track that sort of thing. The Lemp family, once beer barons, met tragedy after tragedy, suicides, sudden deaths, a curse that seemed to cling to their name. The mansion's now a restaurant and inn, but the air feels heavy, like it's holding on to the past. We booked a ghost tour, expecting cheesy theatrics, maybe a jump scare or two. The guide, a wiry guy named Tom, led us through dimly lit halls, pointing out the grand staircase where William Lemp Jr. took his life in 1922. People hear footsteps here, Tom said, his voice low. Sometimes glasses fly off shelves for no reason. I rolled my eyes, but my friend Jake, always the daredevil, smirked and said, "Let's stay late, see if the ghosts show up." Against my better judgment, we lingered after the tour, hiding in a corner of the dining room. The mansion was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. Then a faint tapping started, like someone drumming their fingers on wood. I froze, my heart thudding. Then a faint tapping started, like someone drumming their fingers on wood. I froze, my heart thudding. "It's just the pipes," I whispered, but Jake's wide eyes told me he wasn't buying it. The tapping grew louder, faster, coming from the wall behind us. No pipes could do that. We bolted, not looking back until we were outside, the mansion looming under the moonlight. The next day, we drove to Jefferson City to tour the Missouri State Penitentiary, nicknamed the bloodiest 47 acres in America. It was a prison for over 160 years, housing killers and thieves, and the stories of violence there are chilling. Riots, executions, inmates who never left, even in death. The daytime history tour felt safe enough, with sunlight streaming through the barred windows of cell block 4. Our guide told us about the gas chamber where 40 men met their end, and how paranormal investigators have recorded voices begging for mercy. I thought getting back to my normal routine in St. Louis would shake off the unease from our haunted road trip. Work, coffee runs, binge-watching shows, ordinary life was supposed to ground me, but the feeling that something had tagged along from Lemp Mansion, the Missouri State Penitentiary, and Zombie Road wouldn't let go. It was like a splinter under my skin, impossible to ignore. That chair in my kitchen, perfectly centered in the middle of the room that night, was just the start. I didn't tell Jake or Emily about it. They were already spooked enough, and honestly, I wasn't sure I believed it myself. Maybe I'd moved the chair in a half-asleep daze and forgotten. That's what I told myself anyway as I shoved it back under the table. But the next night, I woke up to a faint tapping, just like the one we we'd heard at Lemp Mansion. It was soft, rhythmic, coming from the living room. My heart pounded as I crept down the hall, clutching a baseball bat I kept by my bed. The sound stopped when I flicked on the light, but my coffee table was askew, like someone had nudged it an inch to the left. I checked the locks, still bolted. No one could have been in my apartment. I didn't sleep that night. By the weekend, I was a wreck, jumping at every creak in my old building. I called Emily, hoping she'd talk me down, but her voice was shaky over the phone. "Sarah, I keep having nightmares," she admitted. "It's always the same. A woman in a white dress standing at the foot of my bed staring. She doesn't say anything, just watches." My stomach dropped. Emily hadn't mentioned the Zombie Road stories about Della, the woman killed by a train, but I remembered them. A woman in white haunting the tracks. I didn't tell Emily that part. Instead, I suggested we meet up with Jake, maybe figure out if we'd just psyched ourselves out. We met at a diner near Forest Park, the kind of place with sticky tables and bottomless coffee, hoping the bright lights would keep the dread at bay. Jake looked worse than I felt, pale, with dark circles under his eyes. "I keep hearing footsteps," he said, stirring his coffee without drinking it, "like someone's pacing in my apartment at night. I thought it was the neighbors, but it's too deliberate." He leaned closer, voice low. "And last night, my EMF meter, the one from the penitentiary, it turned on by itself, spiked red, and stayed there." We sat in silence, the diner's chatter feeling distant. None of us wanted to say it, but the pieces were fitting together. The tapping from Lemp Mansion, the shadow in the penitentiary's cell, the moan and footsteps on Zombie Road. It was like we'd stirred something up, and it wasn't staying behind. "We need to go back," Jake said finally, "to one of those places. Figure out what's happening." Emily looked horrified, and I wasn't thrilled either, but the idea of living with this creeping fear was worse. We settled on Lemp Mansion. It was closest, and that tapping in my apartment felt like it started there. The next evening, we pulled up to the mansion, its Victorian bulk looming under a cloudy sky. The restaurant was open, but we weren't here for dinner. We'd booked a private paranormal investigation through a local group, just the three of us and a guide named Clara, who carried a voice recorder and a no-nonsense attitude. "The Lemps never really left," she said, as we walked through the darkened halls. "People hear voices, see shadows, feel touches. If you brought something out with you last time, it might not be happy." We set up in the attic, where the Lemp family's tragedies felt heaviest. Clara handed us a spirit box, a device that scans radio frequencies for ghostly voices. The static hissed as we asked questions. "Is anyone here?" I said, feeling foolish. The box crackled, then spat out a clear, low voice. "Leave," Emily gasped, dropping her flashlight. The beam spun across the floor, catching a glimpse of something. A figure in the doorway, gone when the light settled. Clara's eyes narrowed. "That's not normal," she muttered, checking her recorder. The spirit box went silent, but the air grew colder, pressing against my chest. Then the tapping started again, louder, coming from the floorboards beneath us. Jake's EMF meter lit up, buzzing like an angry wasp. "It's here," he whispered. I don't know why, but I felt compelled to speak. "We're sorry," I said, my voice trembling. "We didn't mean to disturb you. Please, leave us alone." The tapping stopped abruptly, and for a moment I thought it worked. But then Emily screamed. She was staring at the mirror across the room, where a faint outline, a man's face, gaunt and hollow-eyed, stared back. It vanished when Clara swung her flashlight over, but Emily was shaking, tears streaming down her face. We left the mansion in a hurry, Clara promising to send us the recorder's audio. The next day, she emailed a file. Amid the static, there were words. "You woke us." Not one voice, but several, layered and angry. I haven't gone back to any of those places, and neither have Jake nor Emily. The tapping in my apartment stopped, but sometimes, late at night, I feel that cold breath from Zombie Road on my neck again. I don't know what we brought back, but I know it's watching. Missouri's haunted places aren't just stories, they're warnings, and I wish we'd listened. It's been 3 weeks since we fled Lemp Mansion, that chilling night with the spirit box and the face in the mirror. I thought distance and time would dull the fear, but it's like trying to outrun your own shadow. Jake, Emily, and I haven't talked much since. Every time we try, the conversation circles back to that audio file from Clara, those voices hissing. You woke us. We've been avoiding each other, maybe because looking into each other's eyes means admitting this isn't over. But last night I got a text from Jake. It's getting worse. Meet me tomorrow. We need to end this. We met at a coffee shop in Kirkwood, far from the city's haunted corners. Jake looked like he hadn't slept in days, his hands trembling as he clutched a mug. It's not just footsteps anymore, he said, voice barely above a whisper. Last night I woke up and my bedroom door was wide open. I know I locked it, and I found this. He slid his phone across the table, showing a photo of his mirror. Scratched into the glass, faint but clear, were the words, "Not yours." My stomach churned. Emily wasn't much better. She'd stopped sleeping in her bedroom, camping out on her couch because the woman in white kept appearing in her dreams, now whispering her name. I didn't want to admit it, but my apartment wasn't safe either. The chair hadn't moved again, but I'd started finding things out of place. Keys in the fridge, a book I'd left on the counter open to a random page, always the same one with the word leave underlined in pencil. I didn't own. I'd tried sage, prayers, even leaving the lights on all night, but the air still felt heavy, like someone was standing just out of sight. We can't keep ignoring this, I said. Whatever we stirred up, it's not staying in those places. It's with us. Jake leaned forward, eyes intense. I've been researching. The penitentiary, those dungeon cells. There's stories about inmates who were locked away so long they went mad. Some people think their spirits latch onto visitors looking for a way out. And Zombie Road. Della's not the only ghost there. There's talk of something older, something tied to the land itself. Emily shook her head, hugging herself. So what? We go back and what? Apologize again. We tried that at Lemp, but Jake's jaw was set. We go to all three. One last time. We face it, whatever it is, and we end it. I didn't want to go back. The thought of stepping into those places again made my skin crawl. But the alternative, living like this, always looking over my shoulder, was worse. We agreed to start at Zombie Road, where the cold breath on my neck had felt the most personal, like something had marked me. We drove out at dusk, the October air crisp, the trees along Lawler Ford Road casting long skeletal shadows. The gravel crunched under our feet as we walked deeper into the woods than before, past the old railroad tracks. We carried salt, a cross, and a small recorder, hoping to capture something we could use to understand what wanted us. The silence was suffocating, thicker than last time. No moans, no footsteps, just a stillness that pressed against my eardrums. We stopped near a gnarled oak, its branches twisting like fingers. Jake poured a circle of salt around us, an old trick he'd read about online. If you're here, he called out, tell us what you want. The recorder hummed softly. Nothing happened for a long moment, and I started to hope we'd been wrong. Then the temperature plummeted, my breath clouding in front of me. A low hum, like a distant train, vibrated through the ground. Emily grabbed my hand, her fingers ice cold. The recorder crackled, and a voice, not human, not entirely, growled, "Mine." The word echoed in my skull, and then I saw her, a woman in a tattered white dress. Her face, half hidden by matted hair, stood just outside the salt circle. Her eyes were empty, black pits that seemed to pull at me. Emily screamed, and Jake threw the cross toward the figure. It didn't flinch, but it vanished, leaving a faint smell of damp earth and rust. The hum stopped, and the air warmed slightly, but my legs were shaking so badly I could barely stand. We didn't wait for more. We ran back to the car, the recorder still clutched in Jake's hand. When we played it later, the word "mine" repeated over and over in different voices, some deep, some shrill, some barely a whisper. It wasn't just Della. It was like we'd opened a door and everything on the other side was trying to push through. We knew we couldn't stop now. The penitentiary was next, then Lemp Mansion. Whatever we'd woken, it wasn't done with us, and I had a sinking feeling we weren't done with it either. As we drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. For a split second, I saw her, the woman in white, standing on the road, watching us go. The drive from Zombie Road to Jefferson Carson City felt endless. The memory of that woman in white burning in my mind. Her empty eyes, the way she stood just outside our salt circle, and that word, mine, looping on the recorder, haunted me. Jake gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white, while Emily sat in the back, clutching the cross like a lifeline. We'd decided to face the Missouri State Penitentiary next.